It is the Pete Cohen podcast and is a very special edition. I've got a guest and I haven't had a guest for a very long time. I'm not going to tell you who it is until after the theme tune, but we will be looking at something you might have heard of. We're going to be talking about the law of attraction. What is it? Is it real? Does it exist? We're going to be talking about that. Join me and my guest after the theme tune. The big question is, how are some people in the world today creating the results they want with their health, wealth, and happiness? What exactly are these people doing? This podcast will give you the answers and inspire you to live the life that you want today. Happy, beautiful day, guys and girls. My guest today is the awesome John Scott. John, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit bemused about what we're going to be talking about.
Well, I had to take advantage of this opportunity for so many reasons that are bizarre, random, also incredible, amazing. John, just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are.
Right, well, where do you want me to start? I trained as a teacher. I decided I didn't want to be a teacher. I loved the kids but hated the staff room. So I went to Wimbledon School of Art and I learnt the art of costume making. So I became a costume maker and costume supervisor in the theatre, in telly, and then in major Hollywood movies. And then I got headhunted to go on to This Morning to be their fashion expert. I went in to do one show. They just asked me to do catalogue fashion and I stayed for 10 years basically. And then after that, I left there because I had to leave London because of family health. My dad wasn't very well, and he was up north. So I moved up to Stratford-upon-Avon and I worked for a shopping telly selling jewellery, high-end jewellery. And then more recently, I left there in the last 3 years. I've been presenting on a channel called Sewing Quarter, which is, was a channel that concentrated on sewing and selling sewing bits and bobs.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've just said so much there that would be amazing to dive into and talk about, because people love stories and your life's a story and my life's a story. We're all in the story-making business. But before we get into the piece, which I would love to explore with you, just tell our listeners, how did we first meet?
It was on either This Morning or Lorraine Kelly, or I think it was This Morning, wasn't it?
This Morning, yes.
And I was the fashion, obviously on-screen fashion guru, and you were the...
life coach.
Yes, but we didn't call it life coach. Did we call it life coaches in those days?
I think I don't know. I had one of my most difficult moments ever. The only thing I ever did on television that didn't work was actually on This Morning with a woman who had obsessive compulsive disorder. And I remember Philip Schofield just shaking his head at me because what I tried to do with this woman didn't work. But
no, that wasn't your worst moment. Your worst moment was on GMTV when you're on a beach in the smallest pair of Speedos.
My dad's swimming costume that my dad had basically thrown away and I'd kept, and they'd been in the family heirloom, and the next thing he saw was me wearing these Speedos on the beach.
I don't know what your reasoning behind it was.
Well, we could talk about that as well.
Yeah.
What I'd love to talk to you about is, I mean, for our listeners who don't know the story, something amazing happened with you. Mm-hmm. And I knew you, and you remembered me also from the Vitality show. We both used to speak.
Yeah, well, we also bump into each other at different events, didn't we? Yes. And you were always there doing your wellness and everything. I was all there doing fashion shows, and we'd see each other as we were racing between events within them. But yes.
So let me ask you, before we tell the whole story, do you believe in this thing called the law of attraction?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I used to think I knew what it was. Do you believe that if you think about something enough, if you put an idea out into the universe and you think about it enough, you can attract that?
Yes, I also don't think that you have to. I do, because I call that creative visualization in my little world. But I also think that sometimes you don't need to put, or you don't think you're putting energy into it, because sometimes it's like you can think about somebody and then the phone rings half an hour later and you haven't spoken to them in months and months and months, and it's them. So I do believe that there is something out there, if we need to speak to that person or they need to be back in our lives, that something tells them. Yes. But I didn't know it was called... See, to me, law of attraction means, do you fancy them?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Not all the other things, like you've just opened that door and I hadn't even thought of it like that.
But I think you make two cases around creative visualization, being able to, as a designer, you have to see something in your mind first before you actually build it. And people would say that things exist twice, once in your mind and then once in reality.
Yeah, because they're not always the same.
No, but it's nice when they come out close, right? And I think the other thing is we have this thing called the reticular activating system, which basically is a bunch of cells located at our brain stem that basically are looking to filter the information that we're looking for. So if you're looking for what's wrong and what's missing in your life, that's basically what you'll start seeing. But the reason I really wanted to share this story today is that you were on Sewing Quarter, and I think you know part of my wife's story. My wife was given 18 months to live 9 years ago. It was an incredibly difficult time. And I had a coach, and I asked him when she was sick, what should we do? He said, find people that are still alive, find out why. And then he said, what is she going to do when she gets better? And I said, but she's only been given 18 months. And he said, so what? People defy all the odds. Ask her what she's going to do when she gets better. And I didn't ask her that for 3 years until she made a recovery. And then I said to her, my coach said this to ask you, and I'll never forget asking that question. I know, remember where we were. She started crying her eyes out, and I knew why. Because she didn't have a future. She did not know what she wanted to do with her life apart from not dying. And I wanted her to find out. And eventually she wouldn't listen to me. I found someone online who was really good at helping you draw your future and see where you want to go. And that person's become a friend of ours. Hannah drew the life that she wanted to create, and so much of that has happened. She drew this house. And then she started sewing. So sewing has been in her life. Her grandma started something that was upstairs, and then her mum did it, and then Hannah finished it. And now she's taken sewing up like you wouldn't believe. Anyway, to cut a long story short, somehow she came across Sewing Quarter, and you brought so much joy into our house, because every time you were on, it was like we were in the house going, John, 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 John. You wouldn't believe. And she would just listen and watch, and you inspired her to do things, all these things that you see around, to be creative. And then I got a message on Facebook, and you know the story, and you sent me a friend request. And I thought, why are you sending me a friend request? I know we know each other, but why now? And I shout upstairs, Hannah, Hannah, you wouldn't believe it. And she goes, what? She thought I'd had an accident. Yeah. I'm running downstairs. And then I had to calm her down because she thought I'd, had a heart attack or something. And then I wrote OMG to you. And you went, why? And I said, you don't understand. You've inspired my wife so much. Anyway.
Yeah, but we have to say also, when I knew you, Hannah wasn't, we're going back donkey's years when we first knew each other. So I didn't even know of Hannah's existence or anything.
So why did you send me a friend request at that time?
Because it just came up on my people you might know.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know him.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to talk to him again. No idea why. But then I also believe, like you're saying, you call it law of attraction, that it came up for some very strange reason. I'll just tell you very quick, going off your story a little bit. No. When I was on holiday in America last year, I got a message from somebody I don't know on Facebook saying, oh, hello, gorgeous, chat. And I was like, so I added him and chatted to him and everything. He and his husband have now become two of my, and I've only known them for 8 months or 9 months, but they have become, our lives have become completely entwixt, that's such a word, but you know what I mean? Entangled with each other, because the husband, they're both into sewing, they hadn't seen Sewing Quarter, but they were both into sewing, they both knew me from this morning and everything like that. But it's this very kind of brand new friendship that's just come from him, and his intentions, first of all, were like a chatty, uppy, flirty thing, and it's now, we realised, turned into like a kind of, for some reason, we've all come into each other's lives at this time. So you coming up on my thing, I didn't go, oh, we must need to connect. I was like, oh, I know him, I like him.
Yeah.
And I just clicked on it. And I don't normally click on that many, when it says people you might know, I'm like, well, I don't know him, I don't know him.
So is it possible that there is some sort of force at work that kind of brought us together?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I could definitely
we needed, I almost feel like I needed you in my life to give me confirmation of the fact that you can make things happen by, I don't know, putting yourself in a space where you're ready for it, or just put the idea out there and then it starts to happen.
Yeah, but you say need. Do you mean need? I don't think need's the right word. As in, sometimes you just want it.
Yeah.
It's not, I need to have that person in my life, but I want, or I would like to have that person in my life.
Yeah, I think want is maybe allows the space for that to actually happen. Need creates, I don't know, some sort of resistance.
Yeah, or it sounds not desperate, but it sounds like, oh, I need that, and
Yeah.
and I don't like needy people.
Yeah.
So I kind of,
So tell me what you've been doing here today, because I know you've come down today, and it's been really amazing. I'd love to know more.
Okay,
more
well,
about that.
lots of those who know, but lots of people won't know, is that Sewing Quarter closed down, sadly. And Sewing Quarter, my job on Sewing Quarter as the main presenter, as the face of the channel, and as the kind of guiding the guests through their demonstrations was my perfect job, because I love being a presenter. I love fabrics and stitching and creativity and everything like that. And I would be on air for 5 hours every day. No script, nothing like that, but would absolutely love every minute of my 5 hours. And I then got this huge fan base on Facebook and through the show and everything like that. And to me, it was my perfect job, and I had no intentions of leaving whatsoever. It closed down unexpectedly to all of us. It was a bit of a shock to all of us. So I thought, I've got to do something. So I set up John Scott Sewing World, which is just a website, hasn't even gone properly live yet. We've had a couple of years, and already I've got 27,000 subscribers, and we haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
And part of that is I'm not selling on it. I'm not doing any hard sell or anything like that. I might recommend some things, but I just thought that it would be nice for the people who watch Sewing Quarter, who saw all my guests, but only saw them as selling something or demonstrating something, it'd be quite nice to get to know them as people. And because when I first reconnected with you, so we didn't know Sewing Quarter was closing down, I saw Hannah's work on Instagram and thought, well, she'd be a good guest to have on the show in the future.
Yeah.
But of course, that is never going to happen now because it's not there anymore. But I wanted to include her in my interviews on my website.
Yeah. So what did you think of her work when and I know you've seen some of it today as well.
Well, just seeing it on Instagram, you can tell that there is a passion for it and that she is finicky. Is that the right word?
Yeah, yes.
Or no. What's the word I'm looking for?
Particular about
It has to be perfect.
Yeah,
It has
yes,
not
yeah.
in a bad way, and I'm not saying that
Yes.
as a negative comment whatsoever, because I think quilting or patchwork or whatever you want to call it, it can be as rough as anything if you're making it for yourself or if you're making it for a loved one. It's just, but if you want to do the true art, your points have to match and things like that. And what I noticed on every single piece of Hannah's work is all of her points match at exactly the right place and stuff like that. So her work is immaculate.
and I can't thank you enough because you've already given her such an audience. So many people are following her because of your recommendation. And
nice.
I think we're living in the era now where it's all about the go-giver. How can I help you? What can I do for you? But let's explore this thing about creativity. Why are you so inspirational about being creative? Why do you think it's important for human beings to...
Well, I don't know where it comes from because I'm not from a creative family at all. My dad was a pilot. My mum worked as a personnel manager. All my brothers and sisters all do science or medical and things like that. So I've got no idea where it comes from. So this is another story, but it must come from one of my past lives that's just come through to the fore in this one.
Yeah.
I just like nice things,
Yeah.
basically. I don't know. I don't quite know.
So I used to have I don't find myself particularly creative in terms of being able to see things in the way that maybe some people do. But I'm always interested if someone's really good at something, what are they doing? So I remember I've had a couple of girlfriends who were hairdressers, and I'd always ask...
It didn't work for you though, did it?
Exactly. But I was always curious, what happens when someone comes in, and they would say the same thing, that they would actually see how the person was going to leave.
Yes.
They could see the person's... and the thing I wanted to discuss with you, because part of my work with people is getting them to close the gap between where they are, where they want to be. But if you want to be somewhere, you have to have an idea of what that would look like. Is that something that when you're working on pieces and when you were working on costumes and stuff, where does that ability come from, that your ability to see how something is going to turn out even before it started?
Well, I think it just comes with practice.
Yeah.
I think going back to what you said before, I've never planned my life. I don't have a master plan. I don't have a thing where so you go to an interview and they go, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I will go wherever and I know this sounds a bit
No, I like it.
airy fairy, whatever. I'll go where the universe is sending me.
Yeah.
And I also know that no decision is the wrong decision. So even though you go through the most gut-wrenching, am I going to do this, what's right, whichever decision you end up making, it's the right decision for you.
Yeah.
So I kind of follow that ethos through my life. I don't know, I suppose that the costume thing is the original, or when you're designing ball gowns or wedding dress, something like that, you see the person first of all. Well, it depends. If it's a character, you have to discover the character. But if it's a person, say Hannah came to me to have her wedding dress made, I wouldn't have any thoughts in my brain at all until I'd sat down with Hannah and looked at her, seen what her spirit was like, seen what she liked, seen what clothes were in her wardrobe. Because things like the big mistakes people make is they think, oh, it's a wedding dress got to be big and frothy. But if that person doesn't wear big and frothy or can't wear big and frothy, then there's no point in doing a big frothy wedding dress. So it's seeing the soul of the person that you're making for. I can sort of see what I sometimes I'll design something and they'll go, I'm not wearing that. You know what I mean? It's all, but costume wise, it's all to do with, you have to have the period right, you have to have the colours right, you have to have the amount of period dramas you can see on the telly, and you go, well, they didn't even have that fabric in those days, or they, you know, I don't know. Basically, it was a film that was huge a couple of years ago, and somebody I worked with designed the costumes for it, and it was a massive world smash hit, and the costumes were atrocious, and everyone was going, oh, doesn't it look fabulous, doesn't it look fantastic? And I went with my friend Dulcie, who I trained with, and we used to share a house together, and now she lives in the next village to me. The costumes were atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And I'd have been embarrassed if they were my costumes. Yeah. But the world saw it as isn't this film just the best thing you've ever seen?
Yeah.
And yet the period was wrong, the fabrics were wrong, the darting was wrong, the shaping was wrong. And we just sat there going, you know, kind of, I still enjoyed the film because I enjoyed the singing and everything, but the costumes were atrocious.
Yeah. So it sounds like your philosophy of life is to go with the flow and let things happen. Is there a secret sauce to that? Is there a part of it like, well, as long as I'm enjoying the journey?
Well, yes, exactly. I think the thing is, I think I know I'm lucky, but when it's time to move on, something in my brain goes, I'm bored, not bored, I'm ready to move now. Have no idea where, I still think, you see, all my friends, I'm of an age now, where all my friends are like, well, when we retire next year, and when we do this, and we're going to buy a house. I've got I think I've still got 3 different careers still inside my head that need to come out before I die. So it's kind of, I go with it, but I still stress. It's not like, oh, I just lay back. I've still got bills to pay. I've still got a mortgage to pay. And when Stone Quarter announced they were shutting down, because it came out of the blue, I was like, what am I going to do? That was my instant reaction. And then for a few nights, I woke up in the middle of the night going, I won't be able to pay my bills. And then I kind of think, no, put faith in it. Because I'm the kind of person that even if I had to go and work in a coffee shop, or not, there's anything wrong with working in a coffee shop, but if I had to go and do something that wasn't part of my trade, I'd do it to pay my bills. You know what I mean? So but then who are you going to meet at that coffee shop who might take you on to your next job?
So you'd call that like just a positive, optimistic outlook?
Yes.
Because what I see is when we see the best in people is normally through really bad things that happen. Very rarely do you see people that you see the best because they see something in front of them that they feel that they must do. What do you feel that you still must do? Is there anything specific?
What do you mean, career-wise?
Yeah, what must you still do while you're still
okay,
here?
I want to be like the new Doris Stokes. I want to be
Who's Doris Stokes?
Doris Stokes, she was the greatest medium ever lived, and she filled arenas full of people.
Okay.
But I also, and this is going to sound really sad now, I want a proper relationship. I've had relationships in my life, but I look at some people and go, oh God, I don't want it with the people, but that's what I want, sort of thing. And it's a bit frightening when life rattles past so quickly, and you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm nearly 60 and I've not had that. I've had so many fabulous things in my life. I'm not complaining, but I've not had that one thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of the people that are listening to this, you never know, they might be able to
they're
help.
only hearing my voice and not seeing my picture, aren't they?
Well, they will. I'll make sure that they do. I just think that the world needs more people like you. I really love everything that I really mean this. I love what you stand for.
Thank you.
And I think you're one of the good people. And this is the last thing. We could talk for hours, but I believe that people can all be creative, and if they want to be, and if you meet a happy person, they've always got a project on. There's always something they're working on. And then there are some people who have quests. There's more than just a project. There's something else big that they have to do. And I'm not to say that you should have a quest, but I believe everyone should be working on something that makes them happy. What's your goal with the website that you've now created? What is it you want it to stand for? Why should people come and visit?
And but it's weird because I set off thinking, I've got to make money. But I'm not doing it to make money. I just see how much joy people get from sharing a picture of a table mat they've made or a quilt they've made. And it can range from anything. It can range from the biggest, most beautiful king-size quilt to the tiniest little felted robin.
Yeah.
But people come to my website now just to share their pictures and to chat and to see what I'm up to and see where I'm going to be and things like that. And I think for that side of my life, I think that's just going to carry on as it is. You know what I mean? I don't think it's never going to be making me money or anything like that. That's just going to be a bit of a kind of something on the side. I believe my life is going to kind of go off in not a different direction, because I'll be taking all those people with me, but something slightly different, but I don't know what.
And what would you say to people out there in the world that are kind of maybe struggling in some way, shape or form, struggling maybe with some area of their mental health or something they've had something happen to them in their life and they're just not in a good space? What words of wisdom do you like to say?
Well,
to people?
I mean, I'm not like you. I'm not a life coach, but I would say talk to people. I think talking to people is the most important thing we can do. And I also think that no matter how down we are, find something that makes you laugh. I think if you laugh at least once a day, then that'll keep you. I don't know what it is. I just say it's the best medicine. And I can see, I also very quickly, but I can see that the people watch me on Sewing Quarter. I had ladies messaging going, I haven't smiled for 6 months. I haven't laughed for 6 months since my husband died, or and you've brought it out to me. You've made me laugh. And that to me is the best. I mean, I can't go to the mortgage with it, can I? But to me, it's the best payment ever. That somebody who was in the depths of debt, just from something silly that I've said, or me dropping something, or me saying something I shouldn't say on telly, has made them laugh and moved them on to their next thing. So talking and laughter, really.
So I just did a podcast this morning talking about achievement, and I was talking about the biggest achievement in life, I think, is to be loving. And in the Greeks have 6 different words for love. There's 6 types of love. There's sexual love. There's the love of friendship. There's the love of...
you have to remember them all now you've said that.
There was one I really liked, was about falling in love, but then there's standing in love. And then most people don't know how to do that. And just to love what you do. And I think that's everything that you stand for. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're so infectious. Finally, John, how do people follow you? What do they need to do to get involved with what you're doing right now?
My website is the best way to get in touch with me at the moment, which is it's the worst website, really. Not worst website, but John Scott's Sewing World. So it's 2 T's, 2 S's, but I've just bought the one with 1 S as well, in case people go there by accident. So it's johnscottsewingworld.com. That's my website. There's a Facebook page as well under the same name.
So go and follow John, spread the word. And if you are the sort of person that wants to be creative or just learn about all things that people can do with sewing and what else with anything creative.
Anything creative, because we started off like with quilting. I started off as obviously costume making, so it's dressmaking. And then because of Sewing Quarter, got into quilting and everything like that. But it's anything creative at all. If somebody puts a picture of, something that they've drawn on my website, it's called John Scott Sewing World, but it's just all of my lovely ladies and gentlemen who just love creating things.
Yeah. Listen, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this story. And I know that the story has only just started. I think the best is yet to come. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're going to be racing back up to Stratford-upon-Avon. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you.